The PM has been criticised for mixing up the agency in charge of monitoring that Chinese government research vessel off Australia's south coast. According to the Australian today, the Australian Border Force is responsible for overseeing the incident, not the Australian Defence Force, who Anthony Albanese claimed was on the case. Joining us live now, senior analyst at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, or ASPI, Malcolm Davis. Malcolm, good to see you again. So what do you think that vessel is doing?
Oh, it's clearly spying. I mean, these vessels have dual role. They can do a civilian scientific research role, which is oceanographic research, and that's obviously what it was doing with the New Zealanders. But then it can easily move to an intelligence gathering role, where it conducts research on oceanographic and bathymetric conditions that are very useful in planning military operations with submarines. It can gather intelligence in terms of ELINT and SIGINT. And the interesting thing to note with this particular ship is that it's following the route of a submarine cable that is really important to Australia's economy and infrastructure.
So just elaborate on that submarine cable. And then whenever people talk about cables, I mean, and this has happened before when it comes to China and Taiwan, they can be cut.
Yeah, exactly. So submarine cables are what the internet goes through. When you access the internet, you're either accessing it via a submarine cable or you're accessing it via satellite. Submarine cables give you the greatest bandwidth, which is why they're used more than satellites at this point in time. Essentially, if you cut those submarine cables, you lose access to the internet. Now, that's not just simply a case of, oh, well, you lose social media for a bit. It's about losing banking systems. It's about losing stock markets. It's about infrastructure and logistical systems that go down. So those submarine cables are really critical infrastructure for Australia. And this ship is precisely following that submarine cable. And my guess is that it's actually mapping the submarine cable for future operations. So
when you're mapping the ocean floor, etc., I mean, in my investigations with MH370, a lot of that had already been done. So what would they find that's different to that?
It's about undertaking oceanographic research that, for example, looking at thermal and acoustic conditions in the waters. And that helps submarines plan operations in terms of, what depth they can travel to avoid being detected. So this is not just about the surface of the ocean floor. It's about the water conditions and the temperature and acoustic conditions in the region.
Why would they be doing this, Malcolm? I mean, are we talking invasion down the track?
No, I mean, what we're talking about is the Chinese gathering intelligence on operational environments that they may want to operate in time of war. So, for example, one of the key sea lanes of communication during wartime would be through the Southern Ocean and through Bass Strait up into the Pacific, because that would then divert commercial maritime merchant traffic away from conflict areas. The Chinese would want to cut that sea lane of communication if they could, particularly to starve Japan of access to maritime trade. So it makes sense for them to then send an intelligence gathering vessel and an oceanographic vessel that can then gather useful information on the oceanographic and bathymetric environment in that area, and potentially do some more traditional spying using ELINT and SIGINT at the same time. So this is why they're likely to be there.
All right. Malcolm, always good to chat. Thanks again. We'll talk again soon.